It's not often that a 2D shoot-'em-up comes bundled with a game console, but that's exactly what happened when Sega decided to pack Sol-Feace in with the Sega CD. There was also a Genesis version of the game called Sol-Deace. If you ever wondered how these two games differed, then you've come to the right place. Turn back now if you don't want to know what happens next, because today we're going to spoil the story and endings for both Sol-Feace and Sol-Deace. This is Game Over, the early years. Before we dive into the story and endings, I first want to clear up some of the confusion about the names. Sol-Feace was originally released on the Sharp X68000 back in 1990. 2 years later, it was ported to the Sega CD and featured as one of several pack-in games when the system launched in the United States. There was also a Genesis port that swapped out the music, removed the cinemas, and changed the name to Sol-Deace. These two games are largely the same, but they differ in one important way: the ending. Today we're going to decide once and for all which of these two games had the better conclusion. Let's start with the Sega CD version, which takes us to the distant future of the 31st century. We've perfected a biological circuit that created the gatefold computer system, a system able to process information so fast that it became self-aware mere days after it came online. This, of course, was bad news for the humans, who quickly realized that the computers were taking over and they would either be ruled or destroyed. They chose option 3, which was to fight the GCS and escape to a secret base near the star of Sirius. Now that most of the forces have been destroyed, the humans only have one option left. Their plan is to assemble the most powerful space fighter ever and send it to defeat the gatefold computer once and for all. That ship is the Sol-Feace, and you are the pilot. So it's time to buckle up and fight your way through a mostly forgettable early 90s shoot-'em-up. Things start out in space, where we blow up enemies and dodge the debris. This leads to our first boss encounter, a crab-like creature with legs and a predictable pattern. With that out of the way, it's time to break through the enemy's arsenal. This sends us inside a confined area filled with bullets and bad guys. This leads us into a sphere of artificial solar gravity known as the Artifice-Star. This is not only a bright and colorful stage, but also one of the most exciting bits in this entire game. It ends with a giant fight with an enemy cruiser. It's the kind of battle where you fly around the ship, destroying sections bit by bit. Now that we've been able to take down one of the enemy's big ships, we're starting to build up confidence. We're getting a little cocky. Our next mission is the biggest one yet, and that's to destroy the Gatefold's base on Pluto. Now, keep in mind that this was back when we still considered Pluto to be a planet, so it sounded like a bigger deal than it actually was. Either way, we eventually get to the point where we're destroying all their lasers, which pretty much means the battle is winding down. There really isn't that much left to do besides blowing up the enemy's last stand at Jupiter, and then taking the fight to those computers back on Earth. This is an epic stage, with all the biggest enemies the game can throw at you. We eventually get to the leader, a praying mantis-type robot with long arms. With our superior firepower and overconfidence, it doesn't stand a chance. Here's what happens next.
It's all over, isn't it?
And it starts.
So, the Genesis version is essentially the same game, only with a slightly different name. Sol-Deace uses the same story, the same levels, the same bosses, and the same character sprites. There really isn't much of a reason to go back through the game since we already know what happens, and the only real difference is the music. So let's go ahead and skip to the very end and see how the Genesis port handles the ending. Here's what happens next. Is it my imagination, or is the Genesis ending significantly better than what we got on the Sega CD? I mean, I'm gonna play Sol-Feace any day over the cartridge, but that Sol-Deace ending had a little more to it, not to mention a description of what happened after the fight. The Sega CD version gives us real voice acting before quickly cutting to the credits, and there's an abruptness that rubs me the wrong way. Both of these endings hint at a much more interesting story where they actually develop the characters, and I kinda wish that would have been more present throughout the rest of the game. I can't believe I'm about to say this, but Sol-Deace is better than Sol-Feace, at least when it comes to the ending. Hey, thanks for watching this episode of Game Over, the early years. If you liked what you saw here, then you should know that we post new episodes every Monday. So here's the question I have for you. Which game had a better ending, Sol-Feace or Sol-Deace? I already mentioned liking the Genesis ending better, but you may come at it from a different perspective. Let me hear your thoughts in the comments below. In other news, I'm currently hard at work on reviews for The Works of Mercy, the lowdown in the Council's 4th episode. All that and more will be coming at you this week, so I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then.